This Week Ahead. Hey everyone, welcome in and thanks for joining us once again on This Week Ahead. This week we remembered a dark day in our history. The bright side is it's a day that has not repeated for a century. It's the slaying of a peace officer in Minot. It was January 21st, 1921, that Lee S. Fahler died in the line of duty, shot twice, and died due to those wounds the very next day. According to the Minot Daily News, the traffic stop was due to a suspicion of booze smuggling, which was in fact the case. Fahler, after being shot, unloaded 3 shots into his assailant, who was eventually apprehended. 100 years has passed, but the death of Officer Fahler has not been forgotten. He left behind a wife and an 8-year-old son. Suffering from his fateful wounds, Fahler still was able to ask the police chief at that time, "Did I do my duty?" The fact that this memorial is 100 years old and we have yet to deal with another since is the silver lining of the story. Despite having similar smuggling issues, traffic stops, and a much larger city to actually detail. But the story left behind from the Prohibition era tragedy isn't far from today's reality. It's a story that is told about peace officers to peace officers as a way to remember the past and a way to avoid a potentially fateful future. The state of policing took center stage in 2020 and likely will continue into this year. I want to now bring in Police Chief John Klug to talk a little bit about the state of policing locally and what impacts the national temperature has on our police department here in Minot. Chief Klug, welcome, and of course, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Chief, 100 years has passed since Minot has had to deal with the sorrowful end of watch. How important is it to our local officers to sort of bear in mind the life of a fellow fallen officer that they haven't even actually met?
Yeah, I think that it's something that, fortunately, it has been 100 years, and hopefully it's 100 or more before we have to deal with that in Minot. But the reality is that it's dealt with sometimes daily across our nation, and even those impact our officers locally. So we use the opportunity to reflect on that 100 years and try to keep that in the forefront of their minds, that day does exist.
Now, the spotlight on peace officers became very, very bright in the last 12 months or so. How has that national temperature sort of affected our force locally?
It rests heavy that we're just an incident or a claim away from something like that sparking in our community. And what we try to keep in mind and in the minds of our officers is that we have to be prepared for that, but we also have to try to be ahead of that. And that's why we try to involve our community, try to get them involved in what the police department does through our Citizens Academy and other programs like that. And that gives us that opportunity to show that, something might not have gone 100% right, but it's not because we didn't try. And we try to keep our climate positive. We focus on the positive things that happen in Minot and in our community day to day.
That positive aspect is really important because, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, we oftentimes, meaning, us citizens, normal citizens like myself, we oftentimes forget about the real anxiety that officers really have to deal with during routine calls. The story of Lee Fahler during a presumed booze bust still happens here. Well, it's not exactly smuggling spirits or anything like that. We do see the trafficking of narcotics through our community, whether we recognize it or not, and sometimes with similar results. As a police chief, as an officer that had years on the force, how do you manage that anxiety, that feeling that something like this could potentially happen? And how do you try to train officers to keep their wits about them, but not get overly paranoid and take unnecessary action?
Yeah, the key behind all of that is just staying focused on uh, the moment, and that's why we have policies and procedures to keep our officers from working too many hours, so that they can keep their minds sharp. We want to make sure they're as highly trained as we can get them and still balance the workforce. So it's about training. It's about the mental preparedness. It's about being ready for whatever the situation appears to be. There's another side to that. So it's always keeping in mind that even though everything appears one way, something else might be there that you just can't see yet. And then, of course, the city has an EAP program. Uh, our insurance has mental health benefits, and it's not that we have severe issues, but sometimes it's just keeping that day to day mental clarity of keeping your mind straight, keeping everything that's going on in your life straight, and having a way to express whatever that anxiety moment is, or whatever's causing that anxiety in you, being able to get that out so that you can think clearly day to day. So there's a lot, and a lot of it is about just maintaining ourselves as because everything relies on how we react in a situation. So it's just keeping ourselves clear and well trained.
I want to make sure I don't sort of misrepresent the life of an officer. It's a good career. It's noble and it provides wonderful benefits and, quite frankly, unbelievable opportunities, especially for us here in Minot, for advancement. Not to mention that the PD also has a great deal of respect in our community, from my opinion. What sort of made you consider a life in the blue?
This truly was something that I was interested in. As I started to get into my high school days, I started to look at what did I want to do with my future. Military was the first move, which I did the military police side when I was in the Army. But then it was when I got out, it was still that was my passion. Law enforcement was still at the forefront of my mind, and that's what drove me forward was I was always hungry to do this career, and um, and then take in as much as I could, and that's what this is really all about. I mean, some people get into the line of work and it's not their passion. They find that this really isn't their niche. It's not the thing that they want to do. Um, but I still thank them for trying if they decide that they need to move on to something else. But there are so many things that come out of this, and a lot of times we focus on the negative or the bad things that are going on in our nation, but day after day we don't really deal with that locally. Day after day we're dealing with the citizens thanking us, the messages of thanks. I personally get more emails wanting me to pass on a good job to my officers than I do people complaining about what they do. So um, those thanks from the public, those thanks from our community, and beyond our community, some of them aren't even in Minot. um, those things are truly, to me, what represents the respect that law enforcement has across our nation. And it's not just Minot. These are people from all over the country that reach out. And yeah, we have bad days. We have things that happen. We have bad experiences, traumatic experiences while we're working. But we also, in those same days, have rewarding experiences and things that make us want to come back and go back out on the street. And even when it's freezing outside like it is today, they still come back. Our officers still come back, and I thank them every time. This morning I was able to give one of our officers his senior officer pins and just thank him for what he does, and that's what this is about. It's about being here for the community, and we don't have to ask for thanks. They show it day after day.
Now that might get you on a good some good momentum for my next question, because for a safe community, all we need are a few good men and women. We have that, as far as I'm concerned. About 70 officers and staff members, if I'm not mistaken, in your department. But we're always looking for more. Can you give us your elevator pitch on why those that may be looking for good careers should consider working for the Minot Police Department?
You know, the one thing about Minot PD is we have always been well respected in our profession. So there are a lot of other departments that respect the way we do business, the effort we put into training our officers, and sometimes that shows, unfortunately, in some of the state agencies that pick up our highly trained and highly qualified officers. You know, so we're willing to invest in our people, and we care about our people, and that's the one thing that I would think, if you spoke to the officers individually, that would be the thing that they would reflect on. Is it's generally not the lack of opportunity when somebody comes here. We have new officers that are coming in, and in a couple years they're able to move into working in detectives, getting onto the SWAT team or the bomb team, or our bike patrol or whatever. They have so many special opportunities that sometimes people get into this and they want to go to that big city and they want to have all the action. Minot has all the action, but you get to do all the small things that sometimes you don't get the opportunity to do in a big department. So we have a small town feel, but we still have a lot going on in Minot, and we take care of our people. We take care of making sure they're well equipped, well trained, and they have the tools they need. So, you know, there's always more we can do, and we focus on that every day. What little bit more can we do for our employees? And how can we attract more people to come here? I say speak to the officers that work here. They can tell you that it's a great place to work. I've been here 26 years, and I don't pay attention to how long I have left, because I still enjoy coming to work every day, and to me, that's what it's about.
And since my time being here, we do a really great job of promoting internally, but there's a lot of officers that do get those. You mentioned this earlier, that get to make those movements elsewhere if they need to. We like to keep them. We really do like to keep our good officers here, and you're a prime example of that. Where did you start in the department exactly? You started as a patrol officer, didn't you?
Yeah, I started as a patrol officer in 1995. So.
And elevated all the way to the top. Cream of the cream always rises, I suppose. Yeah. Now, Chief, we are hiring. We talked a little bit about joining your team. How can people do that?
There's a couple different things. If you have questions, just reach out, and if you call any of our lines at the PD that you can pull up off of our website, you'll definitely be directed to the right person. But I speak to many people. We have our administration commander, and our community outreach division really helps with our recruiting and our promoting of our different job openings. And then human resources with the city of Minot, they also have the opportunities to answer the questions. And there are links right on the City of Minot website under the I Want To tab for apply for a job. And you can submit an application. We test 4 times a year. And, as the opportunities arise, as we have openings, we draw from that list and get the best people in and working for us.
There you have it. You can apply at any time. Join our team. Of course, we're always looking for a few good men and women to help protect and serve our community. All right, Chief. Thanks for your time. We're 2 days and change away from the annual State of the City event hosted by Mayor Sean Sitma. I want to once again ask you to join him on Tuesday evening on Facebook or YouTube to watch his address. We're deep in the middle of an important legislative session that will determine future success on much of what the city is working on in its future. The mayor speaks a little about what that future is and could be. He'll address the struggles of the past and what we should truly look forward to in 2021. Plus, he'll announce the first ever Citizen of the Year award live on Tuesday night. Again, that's live. We hope you take the time to join him. That will come out right after the Planning Commission on February 2nd. I can hardly believe it, but we're already looking at future construction projects. One project to keep in mind is actually a state improvement project, and they're looking for your input. It's on US Highway 2 on the southwest side of Minot. It's from Burdick Expressway to Evergreen Avenue. I want to save some of the top details for later, but this week ahead, the state opens up public comments on what they should do at this intersection. That's where you come in. It's a high crash intersection that they have essentially 3 alternatives to choose from for you. No engineer, so I'll do my very best. I can bring one in a little bit later and we'll talk more on this project, but here's the alternatives that they're looking for you to weigh in on. Number one, it's called a 3/4 intersection. We have one of these actually. You may know it. It's at the intersection of 6th Street and 20th. It's designed to limit that cross intersection traffic to reduce crashes. Your second option to weigh in on is something called reduced conflict intersection. Of what is deemed about 42 potential conflict points at an intersection on a highway, this intersection option would actually reduce that to 24. We don't have anything like this in our community, but we could, of course. That is up to you. The third option is something called the high T intersection. This reduces what would be those 42 conflict points down to about 10, a pretty safe change. Again, the state's looking for your input on this project from about February 1 to February 16. You can go to dot.nd.gov to be a part of this public process. Now, here's your bi-weekly reminder that your elected leaders will convene Monday to do their sworn duty to make decisions on your behalf. Among the topics of discussion will be the future of masks within the city facilities. As of Friday morning, you may have heard the mayor lifted his executive order on citywide mask mandates. But this conversation will be as far as what we expect inside of places like City Hall and other facilities under the city's jurisdiction. The rescission of the mask mandate by the mayor was in direct response to the governor's action of lowering the state ND Smart Restart risk level to the color green. That's one color away from new normal. This is a sign of great progress in infection rate, a stark difference from just 2 months ago. This is good news for businesses, the hospital occupancy, and the community. I do want to say this. It doesn't mean that we're out of any of the dark woods just yet. Our efforts and struggles have been rewarded, yes. We're currently on a 14-day infection trend that is the lowest we've had since August, and our statewide inoculation rate currently leads the country. We've come this far. Let's not lose that ground. Let's continue to use caution and care until we reach the very end of this pandemic. Let's not force the governor to raise our risk level again. Let's avoid the contentious debate on masks and a city or statewide mandate. Let's get to that blue color. Let's get to our new normal. Now, one way to gauge our status and how close we may be to that new normal is through testing. We've been doing it since the very start of this pandemic, and we will continue to do that here. We will continue to supply the community with rapid COVID-19 screening 5 days a week at Fire Station 1. If you didn't know, it is free and open to the public. This supplies results in about as little as 15 minutes as well. The hours this week are completely unchanged. We're 8 to 2 on Monday and Friday. We're 2 to 7 on Tuesday and Thursday, with a 10 to 2 window opened up on Saturday. We won't have any screenings provided to the public on Wednesdays or on Sundays. Of course, you need to pre-register. It'll be the fastest way in and out. You can do that at testreg, that's testreg.nd.gov. It's drive-through testing, so there's no need to get out, and there's very, very limited contact. It's really rather convenient. Now, that'll do it for me as we move forward for this week ahead. Consider this yet another reminder to send us any questions you may want us to address on this program to our mailbag. Whatever you want to know, we'll work to get you an answer right here. You can do that by visiting minotnd.org/mailbag, or you can just email it directly to us. That's info@minotnd.org. Just use that the subject line of mailbag. Of course, if you haven't yet subscribed to this newsletter at minotnd.org/thisweekahead, you can also subscribe to the podcast option that we have. That's on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. Or you can, of course, just follow us on all your preferred social media pages. You can find us there as well. Thanks for joining me. And of course, enjoy this week ahead.